We appreciate you. We thank you very much actually for coming out for us. We normally start on time, but we might need 2 more minutes just for COVID preparation time. Sorry. I'm putting out some gloves, so when you guys come up to talk, you can wear gloves if you want, or you can wipe down the mic if you want, whatever you want, so you can feel safe. And it's just going to take me 2 more minutes. Our meetings are notified of what we're doing. If you're interested in being on that list, there's a sign-up sheet here where you can put your name and email address, or you can take a picture of this and send us an email here, or follow us on Twitter. There are wipes, and if you would like to wipe down the pen, if you choose to use the pen and paper method to sign up, there are also gloves. So when you come up, if you want to speak at the public forum, and we expect a lot of that tonight, you can wipe down the microphone, you can put on gloves, you can do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. Good evening everybody. We have a microphone and I'm sure it will work better for you than it does for me, but for now I'm just going to yell. So I would like to call the June meeting of the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission to order. I am going to do the roll call. Francis Tadoro Hargraves. Here. Bonnie Phillips. Here. Sarah Birch. Here. Muhammad Offman. Here. DeAndre Coldwell. Here. Jude Walton. Here. Mashad Evans. Here. Anana Miri. Here. Ali Rumwalawi. Sorry. Here. Jane Lum. Here. And I am present. So that's all 9 of us. Before we move to approve the agenda, though, is there a motion to amend the agenda? So moved by Francis Tadoro Hargraves. Is there a second? Second. Jude Walton. All in favor? Oh, I have to say yes. Yeah. So what I see, this is what the mayor doesn't like. Sorry. So I'd like to move public comment and change it to a public forum, similar to what we did in our February meeting. That will have rules attached to it. We'll go over the rules at that time. But I would like to move it to the end of the meeting. We'll finish our business because we do have a couple resolutions and motions that need to be voted upon. So we will move public comment, change it to public forum, and move it to after our new business. And I believe Mohammed has a couple items to add too. Wait.
I would like to make a motion to pair our ordinance is the chair and vice chair. They are in for 1 year, and since we are starting the second year, I would like to make a motion to reappoint Commissioner Jackson as the chair of ICPOC and Francis Tadoro as a vice chair for our commission.
I second.
Okay. The second motion is to appoint Commissioner Jackson and or Commissioner Tadoro to be the spokesperson, the official spokespersons for our commission. In case there is a media and they want to get our opinion, we want to have that formalized and being presented in a cohesive way, and not to have our own opinions. It's just the opinion of our commission as being presented in the media or to the media by either Commissioner Jackson, the chair, or the vice chair, Commissioner Tadoro.
I second. Correct.
All in favor of the motion to amend the agenda to move public comment to public forum, say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All in favor of the motion to reappoint Lisa Jackson as chair and Francis Tadoro Hargraves as vice chair? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? On the motion to appoint the chair and vice chair as the official spokespersons for ICPOC, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those motions carry. Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry, actually, we need to, is there a motion to add the resolution to ask City Council to have us present every month?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we can vote on that one. All in favor of the resolution, which we will present, of adding the resolution for City Council to this agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now that we have rearranged the agenda completely, is there a motion to approve the agenda in its rearranged form?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We will then approve we need a motion to approve the draft minutes from the February and May meetings. Is there such a motion?
I make a motion that we approve both the February and May minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Billups. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving those draft minutes, please say aye. Are there any opposed? All right. So our intent tonight is to handle some new business and then to devote most of our time to the public forum. So that's kind of why we rearranged things the way we did. The new business before us today includes a resolution to request that City Council allow us to attend the first meeting of the month every month so that we can report out on what we do. Vice Chair Tadoro Hargraves, would you like to read the resolution? Oh, okay, well, all right, I'll read it. You wrote it. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so this is, if you heard Lisa speak last night during the council meeting, she mentioned, that we would like a regular spot on the council agenda every month to give updates. So what we did is we put together a resolution here where it says, whereas ordinance number ORD 1830, forming the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission, permits the commission to update City Council, and whereas current events around the nation have encouraged many people to become involved in police oversight matters, and there is a need to update City Council on a regular basis. It is resolved that the Commission requests Council liaisons, Councilmember Jane Lum and Councilmember Ali Ramwali, to work with the Interim City Administrator Tom Crawford and the City Clerk Jacqueline Brodry to have ICPOC scheduled for a monthly update on the City Council agenda for the first meeting each month. So do we have a second motion? Or a second? Do we have any discussion? Does any commissioners want to ask any questions or say anything? Okay. Ali?
Yeah. Wow. Take your mask off.
Idea of how much time you would need or expect to have to budget or agenda?
We usually get it in under 10 minutes. Well, last asked for 15 just to be safe. I think last night was 14.5. I had a timer.
We're not going to have to stop watching.
No, and we know that the citizens don't want you guys going until 2 a.m. or midnight anymore, so. We'll keep it brief. And if we don't have much to say, we will not expand past what we have to say. All right, so, any other discussion?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Well done.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is, because you may be aware, the mayor showed Francis Tadoro Hargraves and myself the resolution that he presented to City Council yesterday. And what I mean is that he showed it to us. He also showed it to Ariane Slay. She did not, however, report that it was terrific. What she said was that it was legal. He also showed it to the police commissioner, But again, there is no input from the police commissioner or the police oversight, the chief of police, nor is there input from the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission in that resolution. It was released on Friday, and thus our entire commission was just able to begin to read it on Friday. And so we will begin to discuss it today, and we will, at some subsequent point, that could be today, could be in the future, decide what we'd like to do with that resolution, and if we'd like to add to it, if we'd like to dispose of it, if we'd like to change it or accept it as is. So, would you all like to discuss? Are there thoughts you'd like to share? I'll start if you don't mind, and I will not be repetitive, except to say that I think one of the things that was disappointing to us was that the resolution asks us to do things we already do. And thus, it means that the mayor who wrote the resolution has no idea what we do. There was, you may remember, quite a bit of blood, sweat, and tears that went into the formation of this commission. There was a task force that labored for 2 years to come up with, I'm sorry, did I hear an amen?
And community members.
And community members. There was a huge grassroots effort to come up with a pretty comprehensive document. They wrote an ordinance, and at the very last moment, that was discarded, and the mayor and some colleagues rewrote that ordinance to what you see today. In the mayor's Facebook Live address on Sunday, he referred back to the ordinance. And he said, well, you know, it's in the ordinance. And so I want to say a couple of things. I think that discourages us from thinking about creating a whole other task force to labor for 18 months to address issues that we should be addressing today. But also we want to encourage city council members who are unfamiliar with our work to come to our meetings or to talk to us as a body about what we do. We meet regularly with many constituents in the community. We'd like to meet with more. We are willing to go wherever and talk to whatever group. We want to encourage people to begin making police complaints to us as opposed to making them to the police. The process is slightly different if you complain to us. If you complain to the police, we'll get that complaint, but we get to work with the complainant quite a bit more if you complain to us. We'd like to get that message out. We're, at this point, willing to go anywhere and talk to anybody. If you've got a Girl Scout troop, we will come there. And so it was very disappointing to ask us to do things we already do as if we're sort of not doing them or as if you have no idea what we do. Some of you might want to have some comments or express thoughts about this.
So much effort.
I know, I'm sorry. It's like easy glove to put on. That was easy. And then, sorry.
Greetings. My name is Steve Bolton. I'm one of the commissioners. Very happy to just re-sign back on for another 3-year term. Is that better? That's close to now? Oh, okay. Now I can't move. I really echo a lot of what Dr. Jackson's been saying. Like she's saying so much for all of us. One of my biggest concerns with this resolution is presented, as Dr. Jackson said, is I don't know where the power behind it is. I don't know what's different. Right? I don't know what exactly we're supposed to be doing based on this, and I don't know that it's going to be binding. And I just don't think that we can put the community through that process again, same as the task force, to see all of that work go in and then not have any guarantee that it will amount to anything.
Does it work like this? I don't know if it works like this, but Sarah Birch. master of our social media. You might have noticed it changed recently because she took it over.
Thank you, Lisa. So the concerns that I have about the resolution are the timeline. The 18-month period was very disheartening to me, given that we are in a very contentious time with the police oversight being at the forefront of every news cycle, on everyone's mind, every social media channel that you check, this is what's being talked about right now. So to tell us that we want to wait 18 months to put something out in the community is very, very disappointing. I look forward to Lisa's monthly report and that taking precedent and priority over something that is being pushed back to 18 months. So.
Unlike everybody, disappointed that the mayor did not share this document with us as a community oversight to discuss and come up together with something. But I don't know what's his intention, you know. Could be his intention that, you know, we give it to somebody else, we create something, 18 months from now, everything will be finished, and I don't have to deal with it right now. And could be not, you know, I don't want to work with people's intention as much as what we can do with this document. I think we should really look at it. True, some of it we already do, but we look at it in very closely and see if there's anything in it that will empower the commission as it is now. Because as Lisa said, the task force came out with much more powerful commission and the city watered it down. Also, this is an opportunity to look at what the task force came up with and say we would like to have this, we would like to have that point. So, and the idea of 18 months to me is like government business, you know. We create something 18 months from now, we tell you, which we should also demand from the city, mayor, city council, and chief, is what are they going to do about what's happening now? So, I wouldn't dismiss it as a face value, but I wouldn't take it also. I will look at it and say how I can improve it, how I can dismiss some points irrelevant, but this is an opportunity I think we should take advantage of.
I think we have a lot of work to do. Dana Nessel released a statement today, and it is big. She has some very specific proposals to improve law enforcement across the state, and I think we will draft a resolution to ask the mayor to have the city lobby for some of these. One of the things that we have consistently asked for is the ability to see police names. We know way too many names of people who've been killed, and I don't know any police names. That is not to say that we want to publish them on the front page of MLive, right? That may not be appropriate to put everybody's work issues on the front page of MLive. But the Police Oversight Commission needs to see those names. We need to know if in 20 complaints that come across our desk, is that the same officer 20 times, or is that 20 unique officers? We need to see the patterns of behavior, and we need to be able to analyze them. That's really important for the work that we do. I mentioned, we have asked for that many times and been told why we can't have it. There already exists some police databases with police officers who've been disciplined, and they exist at the national level, at local levels, and if you heard last night, there is a legislator in Michigan who wants to create one here. One of the points that Dana Nessel has asked is that MCOLS, which is the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, require them to create a statewide misconduct registry of verified claims. And she asked that it be accessible by the public. So I think in the interim, having the Police Oversight Commission be able to do some oversight and looking at those names is probably a reasonable request. It does require that the city council go back and work with that collective bargaining agreement. But that's their job. Dana Nesbitt is also proposing that MCOs be authorized to suspend or revoke a license when an officer A, engages in conduct that adversely affects the ability and fitness of the police officer to perform his or her duties, engages in conduct that's detrimental to the reputation, integrity, or discipline of the police department. She's also asking this would mandate that law enforcement agencies actually maintain all disciplinary records of a police officer in his or her file. It's really important that all disciplinary records are actually documented, and they are not necessarily documented, and that's really, really important. She's also asking that officers forfeit their retirement benefits if they're convicted of a felony. She's also asking that mandating that law enforcement agencies report their use of force data and disaggregate it by race, sex, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, religion, and age. She wants to create an independent investigative and prosecutorial process for deaths that involve the actions of law enforcement officers. And she wants to require continuing education for law enforcement officers as a license requirement. So these are steps, I think, in the right direction. We know that the city of Ann Arbor can do some things on its own now, today, and we'd like them to do it. And I think critical to their work will be understanding that the Independent Community Police Oversight Commission acts as a collective. So while Francis and I are the spokespersons and we are often upfront, we don't speak without the full support of our commission. We discuss, we debate, we argue, and then Francis and I come forward. I think the mayor has shown us last night that he still doesn't get it. In his comments, he said, I just wanted to elevate the voices of leaders from ICPOC. Francis and I don't need our voices elevated. What we need is police oversight elevated. We want community concerns to be elevated. We know people who have had interactions with the police that they consider to be sexual assault, and they don't report them because they think they won't be taken seriously, and that's a problem. We need that elevated. You know, subpoena power was a suggestion, and it was strongly opposed by the mayor and city council. And I think when we ask for things that they don't want to give us, what they do is they tell us we don't understand the CBA. And what I understand is that it is a negotiated contract, and it can be negotiated for, and people tend to get what they really care about. And so the things that people care about are in that contract, and I think they need to care about this. I wasn't joking last night, and you guys see that my lack of prowess at parliamentary procedure. But the substance of what we talk about is far more important than whether I know when to call a vote on a motion. And we have heard the mayor make fun of other people. There are people that come to our meetings and to their meetings who yell sometimes. And in this commission, we're fine with that. If you guys would like to yell at us because we're not doing our jobs badly enough, we're okay with that. We think that's part of our job. But we will not take your concerns any less seriously if you yell them or if you propose them in multi-syllabic, completely well-composed sentences.
Anything else before we turn over to public forum?
So at this point, Commission, what would you like to do with the mayor's resolution as it is written? Would you like to
What happened to it last night?
I deferred it
I
back
was
to
not
you.
able to make it through the whole meeting.
Yeah, we went a little long. You deferred it back to us?
Yeah, so if yeah, so it was referred back to.
I'll review. Did you say it was referred back to us?
Yeah,
Okay.
and with no specific direction or instruction.
With no specific directional instruction.
Because I think the pushback was significant because it didn't come first.
Because the pushback was significant that was not presented to the entire commission first.
Correct.
Correct. All right. Fantastic. So it has been deferred back to us, and that's probably a good place for it to sit at this point. Commissioners, would you all like more time to mull this over? Would you like to collect our responses and
I like to revise it.
you would like to revise it?
At a later date or now?
At a later date. I think that this requires some thought. I would agree that it needs revision. I don't think any of us find it acceptable as is.
And I ask that we also ask members of the community to email us and let us know what they might think should be added, should be changed in the resolution. We'd be interested in input component so that we could make sure that we synthesize it down and make sure that it's complete.
Did you all hear that in the back? Thank you. So,
Do we have the resolution? So the resolution is, isn't it? We have
it's
it.
attached. In
Where can they find it?
Legistar. It's hard to find, I'll tell you what. Our email address is a2policeoversight@gmail.com. If you email it, I'll email you a PDF. If you email us, we'll email you a PDF back. If you want to search for it though, it's on Legistar. If you go to the city's website and you ask for city council meeting schedule, if you click on the agenda for yesterday, you can download it there. But please email us. Community input is essential to everything that we do in considering this resolution, but also in considering all of the things that we do and all the things that we strive to do. I'm trying to make sure I can go right now.
Let me clarify, make sure we all understand what this resolution looks like. So just to clarify with the resolution, we're all as a commission going to take this home with ourselves. We're going to get our feedback, we're going to get the public's feedback, and then we'll decide if we set up a special working session to discuss the resolution. But I'm guessing, council members, did this need to go back to city council for the July 6th?
There was no specific.
No specific instruction.
But the understanding is that it was referred to you to do whatever.
Oh, it doesn't have to go back to council at all?
No, I think that, some form of it.
Yeah, I would just say that it would be nice to get a response back, even if it is whatever,
Oh, you'll get a response back.
you know.
Yeah.
If folks listen to the whole council meeting, they'll see my reaction to it, going to the meeting last night. But take your time with it, and it doesn't need to come back in July.
Okay.
You know, so, thank you.
Good, thank you. So now we'll go into the public forum, and we do have some rules because it is different than public comment. Our last meeting in February, it went really well. Everybody was respectful of each other. So what we do is you get 5 minutes, and you can ask us a question, and we will do our best to respond to you within that 5-minute period. And you can come back multiple times. So if you come back and then you get back online and ask another question, you can do that. We have a lot more people this time than we did last time, but we will do our best to get through everything. And the purpose of this is because many people have questions of us, and we want to be able to answer you, and we're not able to do that during a traditional public comment. So we'd like to get some type of back and forth conversation going, because that's how we get what we need out of all of you and how you get what you need out of us. Okay?
Oh, should we make a line?
So I know the red X's are 6 feet apart. They're put here for purposes of the farmer's market. So we can try to do our best to use those. To try to keep a line perfect, spaced properly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to find a place for people to stand, and I don't want them to stand right over you. Or like it's to your right. Yeah.
Just if we get used to all this, they'll find a vaccine.
Let's get used to it quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Get used to it quickly.
Okay. Do you?
Want to go? Come on. Okay, wait. Come on, yes. Come on, and then Shirley Buckley, and then, you got it.
I'd like to speak so everyone can hear me.
All right.
Let him have the mic.
Yeah, make a microphone.
I feel the urgency rather than the delay. The nation is discussing defunding the police. The nation is discussing the disarmament of the police as a central point to begin the overcoming of the racist institutional form of policing. I therefore request that the Commission deliberate with these national issues in mind: the defunding of police and its disarmament. And I do this in memory of the murder of Ora Rosser in 2014. Thank you.
Can you tell us your name so we can put it in minutes?
My name is Peter Linebaugh. I am an historian, formerly at the University of Toledo. Toledo, not far from here, less than 100 years ago, disarmed the city police. It is not a utopian demand. It is a demand for peaceful community and resolution of disputes.
The mic won't travel. You have to come up. I'm sorry. No, you're fine. You're fine. Come on. You're fine. So you go. And watch your comments. Okay.
As of yet. First of all, I want to thank this commission. I don't know how to say this without getting teary-eyed, but we fought long and hard for this commission to become a part of this community and to challenge our city council, our liberal city council, our Democrats, or whatever the hell they are. I appreciate all that you have done. It has been a long battle. It's been a long battle, and not only have we lost Ora Rosser, but we've had incidents at the Blake, we've had incidents in schools. We just had an incident, it's not Ann Arbor, but it's Ipsy, and it's our sheriff. We've had that incident, and we need to come together. I just want to thank you all. I want to thank you for including us, but I also want to ask that there is a work session so that we can, rather than just email you, that we can face to face sit down and discuss this and go over it and come up with good decisions and good conclusions to present. Thank you so much.
Yeah. The next person wants to come on up. I just want to say a couple of things. We have several task force members with us, and you guys should stand up if you're able. Please. As well as Shirley Becker, who just spoke. We appreciate that we are, as all of us are, standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. and we respect your work and we honor your work and we try to think about that in the work that we do. One of the questions initially to us was why there were not task force members on this commission. And I think it's because they raised way too much hell. Unfortunately, they didn't vet us well enough. Because we are prepared to carry on that tradition as well as their tradition of hard work. Anybody else? Say your name.
My name is Farouk Azizadini. I've lived in Ann Arbor for almost 40 years. I've had incidents with the Ann Arbor Police Department, some of them positive and some of them interesting. There's a Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. And I think that's what we're going through now. In 1969, I joined the Detroit Black Panther Party. And here we are 50 years later. Last year we made a presentation at the Charles Wright Museum discussing what had happened to the Detroit Black Panther Party and how the government had basically murdered or jailed or oppressed everyone that was in the Panther Party. At that time, I was 17 years old. I'm 68 years old now, and as you can see, I'm an old man. And one of the things that I've learned is that people are the ones that have to take control of their own safety. You can't depend on the police. My mom still lives in Detroit, and if anything happens, the first thing we tell her is don't call the police, call me. And I live 50 miles away. So I think we need to understand that if the mayor is making moves to eliminate community control of the police, maybe we need to use a word called recall. I think it's really important that people take control of their own destiny, that we figure out, are the police serving us as an agency that works on our behalf, or are they oppressing us? I've had situations where when I pull out of my community at Arrowwood, the police were waiting right there, and I was stopped for a light over my license plate. And when I got my ticket and I pulled off, when I came back, he was still sitting there pulling people over. So, this kind of foolishness goes on, way too long. I was stopped once for driving too slow on State Street. I mean, it gets real stupid. Okay, was I stopped because I was driving while black? That's an interesting question. Obviously, I was. So we need to quit playing games and realize that, okay, one person was killed in 2014, someone was viciously beaten in Ipsy by the Washington County Sheriff in 2020. Is this going to stop? No, it's not going to stop. It's never going to stop until people decide to take control. There was a program called SEARCH, it's Community Emergency Response Teams, that was defunded several years ago. It was started here in Ann Arbor, and basically it's a national program that trains people to respond in emergencies. It asks for volunteers. You go in, and the police department and the fire department, they train you. And basically they train you to respond to different types of emergencies. Let's say there was a tornado that came through Ann Arbor. It wouldn't just be the police that would respond, it would also be CERTs, Community Emergency Response Teams. The mayor and the city council defunded that. They said it was too much money. And I think that's the kind of thing that we need to look at very seriously if we want to take control of our communities and take control of safety. Thank you.
Maybe we can make like a line, maybe this next person up, and then you guys will know who's next.
How you doing?
Say your name.
My name is Josiah Wesley Carpenter, and I'm a rising senior at the University of Michigan.
Go Blue.
Yes, go Blue. I'm tired, man. Not even gonna hold you, I'm tired. In the time that I've been here at the university, I've not only seen friends of mine be treated unfairly by the police, but I myself have been treated unfairly as well. And especially as a Mexican American, during this time and at any point in time, it can be really scary anytime you gotta deal with the police. I'll never forget one time my sophomore year when I was at a Halloween party with some of my friends. And one of my friends out front of this white fraternity house got into a fight with some people. He got into a fight with them because they called him the N-word. And they used the hard R when they said it. And obviously, given the hundreds of years of history that is attached to that word and to that lexicon, he didn't feel too happy about that. And so there was an altercation, there was a scuffle, and I did my best to break it up in that moment. And following that moment, I went to the men who had said that, and I tried to resolve the situation. But they didn't want to resolve it. Instead, they called me a being. And they called me a slur because of the costume that I was wearing. And they tried to corner me and threatened to call the police on me because I wanted to come to a peaceful resolution despite what they had said. And as I'm surrounded by 10 of these gentlemen, I made the executive decision to leave and run away. And so I'm running down Hill Street as fast as I can on Halloween weekend, and I'm being chased by 5 individuals, and only one of them manages to stay with me for the time that I'm running. And eventually, as I'm passing Cottage Inn, there was a cop car that was on the opposite side of the street that was making a routine stop. And the kid that was chasing me was screaming, "Stop him. Stop him. Stop him," at the top of his lungs. And the cop across the street listened to him. That kid was white with blonde hair. And I'm in a mariachi costume, hanging with my brothers. And you know what this cop does? Without hesitation, stops what he's doing on the opposite side of the street, making a traffic stop, chases after me, draws his weapon with the flashlight on, sends a dog after me and says, "Ann Arbor police, get the fuck on the ground." At the end of the day, we have to realize during this time that all of us have a voice. The old people, the middle-aged people, young people, people in college, even kids, it don't matter. We all have a voice. And it's not just the Ann Arbor police or the surrounding areas that need to do better. It's even the University of Michigan police, whose job is to keep students safe. Whose job is to keep us safe. So I would just like to thank the committee for all the work that they've done over these years and for what they're doing right now. And I would just ask that movements be made forward to not only defund the Ann Arbor police and to defund the surrounding areas, but also to have a conversation and start a dialogue on how we're protecting our youth and how we're treating our youth at a predominantly white institution like the University of Michigan. My name is Josiah Wesley Carpenter. I'm a proud Mexican American, and I would just like to end this by saying all lives cannot matter until black ones do. 100.
As we make the transition to the next speaker, I want to encourage you guys to Google Cariol Horn, C-A-R-I-O-L, Horn, H-O-R-N-E. You may have heard about her today. Her story came forward in 2006. This African-American woman, police officer in Buffalo, New York, saw her white male police officer choking a suspect to death. She ordered him to stop choking the suspect. He did not stop. She jumped on his back and prevented subsequent harm to this person, and she was then fired. She lost her pension. We talk about having good cops around. That's the kind of person if we're gonna have police that you want on your force. And she was swiftly punished for that. So I just want to point that out. Those kinds of things make a difference.
Hi, my name is Fiona Chamness. I grew up in Ann Arbor. Hey, how you doing? I went to school with my daughter, her son, and great dude. Yeah, hi. And this is really just a specific clarifying question for the council. So I was emailing with Elizabeth Nelson about this issue, who responded to my emails. Hey! So maybe you can also be clarifying. You're talking about the fact that one of the requests that had been made was for when the collective bargaining agreement is approved, because despite my support for police abolition, I assume that it is going to be approved this year, that it be shortened to be a one-year agreement so that there is time to go over it extensively. Hopefully not in the sense of asking this commission to do it and then ignoring their recommendations, but to go over it extensively. And I was informed that doing that, as in shortening that contract to 1 year, would somehow open up the city to binding arbitration. And I would like a little bit more information about what that entails and why that is a sufficient deterrent to shortening the bargaining agreement length. Thank you.
All right, well, wait, you know what, this thing will move. All right. I didn't realize that earlier. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud, closer.
Closer.
Yeah.
Or louder.
So, I'm one of the city council members, and I am one of the two council members who are appointed to serve as the liaisons on ICPOC. We are not voting members. My colleague is Councilmember Ali Ramlawi. Councilmember Ramlawi and I also serve on the city's Budget and Labor Committee. And the Budget and Labor Committee met most recently after the collective bargaining agreement was postponed. It was postponed and removed from the council agenda. And so I have to be careful, I apologize, because this is a bargaining agreement and a labor negotiation. We are privy to some information that we cannot share at this time, but I will just say that negotiations are continuing, which is obviously a good thing. And the concerns that have been brought to our attention, our collective attention by the community and others, and Dr. Jackson, and Ms. Nora Hargraves, and others on ICPOC, and all of you have been communicating with us about examples from, we've had groups like the ACLU. They've taken a look at the police officers, the Inner Police Officers Association labor contract, and they've cited things that may or may not be a concern, and we're now taking a deeper dive into those issues. The members of the Budget and Labor Committee and myself, Councilmember Lowry, Councilmember Eaton, Councilmember Chip Smith, and then City Attorney's Office representatives, the own City Administrator, the staff make up the bargaining team with the representatives of the Police Officers Association. I'm sorry? Right, I was just trying to answer a question about the bargaining agreement. So we're now in renegotiating mode, if you will. We don't know exactly when it's going to come back to council. Actually, I don't think we'll see it in July. It's going to take a little bit of time, but further negotiations are occurring, which is a positive. Sorry.
Oh, the term. What was initially brought to us was a 3-year contract. And we've heard from so many people that that's too long, and we should be thinking about a 1-year contract. That's another aspect of the contract that is now being further discussed. Okay? So, I'm sorry? Oh, binding arbitration? Well, I'm not an attorney. All I can say is that everything is pretty much on the table. And these are things that we are talking about. So, at this point, I don't think one can conclude that I have no idea if a 1-year contract would be agreeable. None of us do, but I'd like to think that that's not going to send us into binding arbitration. Again, I'm not an attorney. Councilmember Eaton is, and he's on the committee. And he's sitting right over here. But I think it's hard. I wouldn't draw any conclusions about binding arbitration at this point, vis-a-vis the term of the length of the contract. So, thanks.
I'll also mention, thank you, that the Human Rights Commission has just resolved that their position is that this should be a 1-year contract going forward, and they've communicated that to us and to council.
Hello, my name is Evan Redmond. I live in Ward 3, and in 2014, before our officer was killed by the AAPD, the city's police budget was $27 million. And in 2020, it is now nearly $30 million. So I am wondering from members of this commission, who thank you very much for putting on this forum, and thank you for all the speakers who shared their stories, and everyone who's been sharing their stories for the last several weeks. They've been very powerful, but I'm curious if you think there is a better way the city could spend this $30 million to improve public safety, rather than continuing to give police body cams, continuing to give more analysts to watch said body cam footage, and continuing to pay more money for training that seems ineffective.
Hi, my name is Morjan. Thanks, Evan. He told me that exactly what I was thinking. The city is now spending $30.7 million on policing. At the same time, the city is spending $5 million on community development. So, what I'm saying is, spending 6 times more money on policing 123,000 people is way too much. We need to cut it to the bone. Thank you. And we need to focus and get ourselves public housing. Obviously, the money that we are throwing at the police can be used elsewhere. So thank you very much. My name is Mojgan Sababi Esmahani.
Hey, my name is Zachary Story, and this winter I was in between some housing situations. So I experienced, like on the streets, a little louder. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I, utilized the services at the Delana Center. I slept there a couple nights, found it to be, couldn't get any sleep there. Be woken up at 6 in the morning. I was grateful for the meals there, but almost every single day, the police were called to the Delana Center or to the name of the church escapes me on Division. It does breakfast at St. Andrews at 7 a.m. every day, and anybody's welcome to come to that. But so I just saw firsthand some things that before this experience I didn't see, and all of these people who need services are targeted by the police. They told me that they are targeted by the police, and they said, "Hey, don't get on their bad side." Okay. So on my way over here, I saw a couple of officers talking with somebody on the ground. He was drunk, but so I stopped and I checked it out. I stayed with them until the ambulance came, and that's something we all can do. If we have the time, we're legally allowed to stop, watch the police, film the police, talk about it. Imagine that clusterfuck if they arrest a white person who is watching the police. Okay, they're not going to do that. Don't be scared of that. So what we're doing, as grateful as I am on the social services and the generosity of this community, we are not addressing root causes. We are just, giving handouts, giving meals, which is, I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but we need to build more housing. Council members that are here. Last night, Councilmember Gaynor repeated a joke that he had previously said in a different meeting about, we're spending so much money during the pandemic putting people up in hotels, why don't we just buy the hotel? Okay, and I think that's incredibly inappropriate.
No, we should let it.
I mean, it's good. I don't think he he definitely was not serious about that, but I mean, yeah, hey, if he was, kudos to him, I'll get behind that, but it's like we would not have to spend all this money in emergency situations if we took care of the people beforehand, I don't want to take up too much time here. I don't know where I am on the 5 minutes. A minute and a half. Okay, I'll use my time. I will try not to go over my time. Councilmember Romali, friendly. So I stayed up all night last night.
Julie's not here with the time card.
Okay. Fair enough. I am really happy, and the police aren't trained or equipped to deal with these situations. And it is less expensive to help people than to come at them with weapons.
Some of you guys know that I used to be the president of the board of directors of Ozone House. That is a youth and family services organization here in Ann Arbor that is nationally recognized for its amazing work with homeless and at-risk children. I echo what Zach said on those points. We know that our young people are targeted and have way too many contacts with the police when they are in fact extraordinarily vulnerable. They're not more likely to commit crimes, but they are more likely to be victims of crimes. And Zach pointed out the economics of making sure that people are safely housed, and he's correct. I think there are a lot of studies, a lot of national studies, and even some social experiments. I think Salt Lake City did something like that. They had a lot of housing and they put people up, and they found that, wow, people could start to get jobs and phone numbers and do things. So he's right on that, but I'm going to argue that we have a moral imperative to take care of people in this country, and that when we do that, when we don't do that, we are losing the talent and the resources of people who aren't able to contribute, and we can't afford to lose that.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Rosario. So prior to last night's town hall, I sent an email to City Council saying that the ICPOC directive was not enough, and also that it was sent out on way too short of a notice. I got a response from one of the council persons, saying that they ran this proposal by you, which was a lie, and well, actually, what they said was they got input from you. And also saying that they were making efforts at reform, but running into institutional barriers. So to the Commission, my question for you is, what can we do as citizens to help you all break down these barriers and help you all do your work?
I'm sure other commissioners have some thoughts on this, but one of the things you can do is do what you have been doing, which is email council. They took the collective bargaining agreement off the table on June 1st, on Monday, because of your action. Because of you, they took the collective bargaining agreement off the table on June 1st, when on May 31st, they intended to vote on it. The difference was you. And what people are banking on is that you're going to forget about this in 3 months or 6 months or 18 months. And we need you to stay engaged, we need you to stay involved, we need you to remind people that you vote. And so when you email council and express your concerns, as varied as they may be, they listen. And so that's one way you can help us do our work. Go. Pastor Mashad Evans, coming to the mic. Mashad Evans, coming to the mic.
When the question was asked, what can you do? Keep showing up. As inspired as I have been over the last several weeks, my concern is what happens 3 months from now, or 6 months from now. And I say this from a very personal space. I'm an African American. I have an African American son who's 15. He is 6 feet tall, wears a size 12 shoe. His voice is deeper than mine. My concern is that when individuals see him, they don't see someone who was in 8th grade this time last year. They see a man. And because of social bias, many of them see a threat. He was in a group text with his basketball team. And they said in order to prepare for the upcoming basketball season, you should run a timed mile. Can everyone hear me? Him running a timed mile was a full-out conversation between my wife and myself. Because the first thing that came to mind was Ahmaud Arbery. And for my son, who has had no interaction with the police in his lifetime, I don't know how he would react if he were to be pulled over. Does he have threat to anyone? Absolutely not. But these are the kinds of questions I ask myself on a daily basis. That running a timed mile should not have to be a family conversation. Rashad, which route are you going to take? What time will you be home? How will you respond to someone who asks questions of you? And this is a conversation that so many parents of black and brown children have on a regular basis. I'm sure many of us have heard of the talk. I never received a talk as a child because ever since I was old enough to be in the public sphere, it has been an ongoing conversation. Not just one talk. But from the time I was about 3 or 4 until I went to graduate school, there was a continuous conversation. If I were to leave a store holding an item I had purchased in my hand, I would be scolded by my mother. Rashad, make sure that item is in a bag and that you hold the receipt in your other hand so no one thinks that you stole something. As a grown man, I wear my reading glasses to the gym because that's one of the few times I'm in sweats and sneakers. And in my mind, at one point I thought that having glasses on would make me seem less intimidating. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama for 9 years. For 9 years. The epicenter of the civil rights movement. The church that I pastored was directly across the street from Kelly Ingram Park, where black and brown children were attacked and had hoses turned on them in the 1960s. We were less than 50 yards from 16th Street Baptist Church. I didn't feel any safer or less safe in Birmingham, Alabama than I do in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So what I'm asking, am I over my time? Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Because the systems of oppression and power and the dominant culture is just waiting some of us out. That in 3 months or 6 months, this is all going to die down. How do you help do the work that we do? Keep showing up.
Hello, my name is Brett Woodard. I'd just like to say that oftentimes I see in politics this idea that we have to compromise, that the most important thing in politics is to compromise, that people have different opinions and we can never fully arrive at what we want. We always have to compromise with what we want and end up with a little less than it. And then I feel like we take that, we internalize that, and then we make our demands compromise. We compromise our own demands. We compromise on what we want. And we say we want less because we know we should compromise on it. We know that we're not going to get what we want, so let's ask for less. I think that we should ask for what we want. I think that what we have heard here today is that the police do not serve and protect this community, that the police instead terrorize this community, that the police instead cause crime. I think that we should go in there and we should say that we do not want our money for this city that could be going to help the homeless, the insecure, the vulnerable, to be going to armed thugs that terrorize people. I think we should say that we should not have them carrying around more military equipment than we would expect a soldier to carry. And I think we should go in there and say that. I don't think we should demand for their names. I think we should demand for their resignations. Maybe we won't get all of it. Maybe we will have to compromise, but at least we will have asked for what we wanted. They want a revised bill? Let's give them a revised bill. Let's call for the defunding of the police. Let's call for the demilitarizing of it. Let's do it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell that you were. I'm so sorry.
My name's Jennifer Bull. I'm not a natural speaker like our last two speakers, but I grew up in Ann Arbor. I was born here. I've not lived here my whole life. Close to my okay. But my mother gave me these wise words. She said, "This is a conservative community that masquerades as a liberal community." If you're here, you know, it's about 100 people out of, I cut out again, 120,000, and we got 100 people here, okay? So that's where we start. So have those conversations. If you're white, like me, call out other white people on their hypocrisy. What? I think it's 3 proposals for public housing that have been shot down because people come to city council and they say, oh, it's a great idea, I believe in public housing, but not in my neighborhood. We hear that over and over again. And sitting in front is my friend Shirley, who encouraged me to pay attention to what City Council is doing. And I'm too old to get started, but I'm still gonna go. Yeah. So a lot of you, a lot of you are younger, keep going. Like you said, they're waiting for this to phase out. They're waiting for us to stop. They're waiting for us to get distracted. So don't get distracted by what's going on out there. Keep your eye on the ball here. Because if we don't get the larger community to have an honest conversation about what they actually want, we're not going to get anywhere. Because the police department reflects the desires of the larger community. Yes.
It's a funny thing, one of the first comments that we ever heard from Rashad Evans when he moved to Ann Arbor was, Ann Arbor looks like they're going left, but they always fake right.
Hi, my name is Jessica Leaton. I'm a little overwhelmed with thoughts. The first one that I want to say is thank you to Lisa and Francis for being so responsive on email, including being honest when you're like, I can't be responsive right now. For folks who are trying to follow along and keep up and stay educated, I'm so grateful to you both for not just the work that you're doing, but the communicating that you're doing. Thank you for that. To follow up on what Jennifer Wolf just said, we really can't do better when it comes to paying attention to our values than to look close to home. And I just want to encourage folks who may not know that in Ann Arbor, which is largely, ostensibly a one-party town, a lot of our local elections are decided in the primary in August and not in November. So August 4th, or before that, if you want to mail in absentee, all 5 wards of city council members have somebody up for election or re-election. So just pay attention to our primary elections in the summer. And then my question for the commission, super nerdy and procedural. I'm interested to know what your funding looks like right now, and what with whatever laughter comes along with that, and then how the resolution affects that if it does. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
You want to do it? Come on. Oh yeah, actually we have a budget expert. We have a budget expert. Now, to be fair, City Council passed a budget this year, but we all expect that it's going to be revised.
These are the people we need to talk to. We have several city council members. I find it interesting, ones who presented this resolution. I don't see any of them here. I didn't come. One of them is in Cape Cod. But anyways, I will say that I think it's important we hold our elected officials accountable. The only way we're going to get change is if we put pressure on them, we email them, we tell them how we feel. Secondly, as a white person, I can never imagine what an African American person, a Latino person can go through. And I'm not going to get up here and say that I can, but what I want to say is white people need to stand up, and we need to be allies, and we need to be people that speak to our community and tell our community to wake up. Because this revolves around white cops assaulting people of color. And if we don't stand up as white people in this community and do what's right, it's going to continue to happen. I don't know if defunding the police is the answer. I don't know if cutting their budget's the answer. That's why we elect officials. But here's what I will tell you. We have council members that are here. Councilmember Ramwali, Councilmember Lum, Councilmember Eaton, Councilmember Bannister. We have people running for council here that are here. I know Evan, Travis, David. Travis is back there, right? No. Okay. David. So these are people we need to talk to, and elections matter. And you have to vote. And what's unfortunate to me here is the primary elections are decided by so few votes that most of our voices aren't heard because very few people vote. Get your friends out to vote. Make a change here and let ICPOC do their work. Because ultimately, the biggest problem here is you have unqualified white people trying to tell African Americans and Latinos what's right and what's wrong. I'm going to end with a quick little story here. When I was at Huron High School, I played a sport there, not a popular one, so we don't have to say. But I had a good friend who was a football player, African American kid. He was standing outside. He happened to be talking to a white kid who was smoking marijuana. Okay, white kid leaves, and guess who gets arrested and suspended from school? The African American kid, because he smelled like marijuana. What it took was a bunch of us white kids to go in and say, no, that's not right. He was not the one smoking. And that's how powerful white people can be right now. We need to step up and do what's right here. We sit back and we go, oh my gosh, we're so ashamed after it happens. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. Start now, and the last thing I'm going to say is we need to get rid of Donald Trump.
One of the things we didn't have time to talk about last night was how disappointing it is when problems like this that need to be solved or issues like this that need to be addressed get lost in politics, right? So we are disappointed in the way that City Council has acted in some very specific ways. For example, when they feud with each other, it becomes a problem, not just for us, but for everybody, because they can't do their best work. So if the mayor is angry at Councilmember Romlawi or Gene Lum, and he writes a proposal about ICPOC, and he doesn't ask them about it because he wants to leave them out of it, and shows it to them way after he shows it to us, and I do mean showed it, okay? We need to be clear. Then that kind of lack of ability to work together is disappointing. And that happens on many different issues, right? We just had a front row seat to that. And so, I think all of us want everybody to be able to work together on substantive issues. It's also disappointing to us when we see people make fun of community members. I mentioned that last night, they joke on me, I'm okay with that. But it discourages people from participating in the process, and that's a significant problem. And last, I think another point of decorum, we're going to ask the mayor not to text me at 2:33 in the morning anymore. Because the only man who should be doing that would be my husband. Or my son saying, hey mom, I have a problem, right? But I think we do need to think about being civil. I mean, I tried so hard last night to say some really hard things, and you guys don't know me. And I know it doesn't, my family will attest to this, it's a real thing. Francis knows, I am an introvert. I am not a comfortable public speaker. I feel like we have a mission, we have a job, I have a responsibility, I have got to do what I have to do. But my hands were shaking yesterday from my house. I was in tears and trying not to cry as I delivered that message, right? But I did that because I thought that was my job and that's what I ought to do. And we need council to do their job too.
My name is Evelyn Smith. I am a graduate student at U of M, and I've been a member of this community for the past 4 years. Now, I live right down the street from Liberty Plaza, which is, I would guess, one of the most over-policed areas of our downtown. Every single day I see cop cars there, and I see police harassing the citizens who choose to spend their time there. And I want to ask our city council what problems it thinks we solve when we harass and criminalize those people in Liberty Plaza, most of whom are people of color. You know, if those citizens are experiencing homelessness, putting them in a jail cell does not make them any less homeless. If they're experiencing addiction, then criminalizing them and giving them a criminal record does not make them any less addicted. So I have been trying to get more involved in these issues and pay more attention. I went to my first city council meeting last night. I stayed through the whole thing, all the way to 2:30 in the morning. And I guess I would just say that I also hope that in the future our city council can spend as much time talking about racial equity and racial justice as it spends talking about funding for sidewalks. Thank you.
I don't know how many of you know, how many of you know this, but the job I actually get paid for that I have is the State Street District Neighborhood Executive Director. So Liberty Plaza is right on the edge of both State Street and Main Street neighborhoods. So I'd say it was about 7 years ago, going back many years. There was a program here in Ann Arbor. It was called the Panhandling Task Force. And they put together a panhandling outreach program. And we ran it through the DDA. And we contracted with Dawn Farm, who had one of their employees do outreach. And he spent a lot of time in Liberty Plaza, in Graffiti Alley, in several of the other locations around town. And he would go out to any encampments that were going on. And his job was to do outreach and to bring people into detox to get them the help they needed. And that program lasted for 2 years before it ran out of money. That program was very successful. After that program ran out of money, we were told, well, now you have to call CMH at the county, and they have Port, and Port has outreach people that'll come, but you have to call. And we would call, and every now and then you'd see some with their backpacks on, and they'd be walking around downtown. Then that program ran out of money. I can tell you that in 2000 and I believe it was 15 or 14, when that program ran out of money and we lost all of our outreach people, that we were told, call 911. That was what we were told, 911. And I'm like, why do I have to call 911? Can't you send somebody out here? And she said, no. The process is for you to call 911, say that you need a well check, and a police officer and an EMT will come out. The EMT under HIPAA is allowed to have his CMH number if he is a CMH patient, and then we will take it from there. But that is the process. So when you ask things about what we can do, what the future is, what was vaguely kind of sort of talked about in the mayor's resolution, is we need these programs back. And it's not just going to come out of that. I can tell you, there's not enough in the police budget to do this. So we are going to need to find other money, whether that be federal money, that be state money, but that is what we need. We need partners, and we need outreach workers to be out there, because you're right. There's a lot of individuals out there that are substance exposed. They need help. I can't tell you how many times Maggie Ladd on Southview is called for help, and they don't come until she finally had to call and say someone's OP on Southview. These are the things that happened for years, and it's just gotten worse because the programs have been cut. So now's our time to really look at where we can get those programs back.
Hello? 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 I'm Trisha. I was just thinking, I don't really want a city council, no offense, or a mayor who needs to be emailed repetitively to do what we want. And so I was wondering if just a general question, is there a political party, a local-based political party for local elections starting to come around these issues? And if not, I think he was the start one, and I held out, so.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either. I think years ago one started, but that was a long time ago.
Maybe you need to
Yeah.
sign up. Maybe you need to run.
Recall!
Hello, I'm Rebecca Aarons. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you all, commissioners, for your selfless, exhausting work for our community. And I want to bring you back in time a little bit. The police department had 4 police chiefs in 7 years. There's a problem. I've worked with them, I volunteered with them, and I was pleasantly surprised. I worked with them volunteering with offenders, people who had done harm in this community, and these officers were compassionate, and we worked with business owners and uplifted these people to bring them back into the arms of the community. This officer I worked with treated one of the guys like his own son. So I've seen a different side than some of you. I've also seen ugly sides, but these police officers are human, and we had a hiring process a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. That was quite interesting if any of you studied the candidates, okay? Our city council majority hired a black man who has quite a bit on Google. They are writing a script about this man. They have written a book about this man. Chief Michael Cox from Boston. There is a New York Times article about this man. I was very excited to see what I wanted when the consultant came to Arrowwood to say, who do you want to be your next police chief? And I had a 4-page list. And I told him, I said, we want a unicorn. We want somebody who's compassionate, who's fair, who has integrity, who has a supportive family, hopefully a person of color, and the list went on. And here we have Chief Michael Cox. And the first thing he said is, I don't fear ICPOC, I want ICPOC. Because if you spend the time to Google about this man, you will read what he has been through. He was nearly killed by his own white brothers in arms through an accidental, mistaken identity. They lied, 60 officers covered it up. He went through an incredibly devastating, physically and emotionally process to redemption, and he almost left the police force. He has a master's in business, but then he said, no, they're not going to chase me away, I'm going to transform it from the inside. He stayed. This guy had the huevos to stay for another 25 years, okay? So he comes to Ann Arbor with his wife, Dr. Kimberly Johnson Cox. They moved here under the illusion that they would get a warm welcome and that they were wanted. What happened early February? All of a sudden we read at MLive, Chief Cox has been put on administrative leave and no one knows why. Councilmember Lum was one of the first to email the administrator, what is going on? And why? Because when Chief Cox came to my neighborhood in October, you could hear a pin drop. And these are people who have been hurt their whole lives by racism and bad policing. And he was the real deal. He was compassionate. He said, I'm here to serve. What do you want from us? We want to engage with you. But he was making waves. My gut sense is the mayor did not want change. He did not want ICPOC and the chief hand in hand transforming this community. Why do you think there were 4 police chiefs in 7 years? Why do you think Cito quit 6 months after Ora Rosser? Do you think he had support? I don't think so, and I've heard this firsthand. So you may want to defund the police, but I'm telling you right now, tomorrow you're not going to wake up and they will be gone. So I'm asking you, as someone who has spoken in depth with Dr. Kimberly Cox about the man her husband is, who has personally worked with him, to give the man a chance to elevate him, to ask him what he thinks. Don't listen to the mayor saying, oh yeah, I consulted him, it's all good. Because apparently the mayor is not telling the truth. That has been proven. So before you speak for Chief Cox, before the mayor speaks for ICPOC, I ask you to think and question. Because May 2nd, the man returned back to work to face a letter from the white police union saying they questioned his integrity. The man was hired July of 2019. He has faced racism from Howard Lazarus, the city administrator. He has faced rejection from the police union the day he returns to work. He has faced COVID. He has faced riots, potentially, and all of this turmoil, and now he's facing defund the police. He's not going to stay where he's not wanted, and his wife and him are a team. And if they are not wanted, I heard this from her mouth, they will not stay. And then where will we be? Who are we going to find to help ICPOC work hand in hand, collaboratively and eagerly to transform this police department? I want you to think long and hard about that. Thank you. Thank you.
So one of the most interesting things Chief Cox ever said to me was when he was talking about being brutalized by his own police department was, well, you know, that happens to black undercover police officers all the time. And he said it like it was a statement of fact that we should all accept and we should all understand. One of the things I don't want to get into the weeds, but I do want us to think about nuance.
Yeah.
He said too late. I want you to think about some nuance though, right? Because for black police officers and even black National Guardsmen who are at these protests where people are marching for their lives too. Black police officers get pulled over by white police officers when they're off duty. And so there is this duality, this double role that is going on, and I want you guys to think about that in the back of your mind. Many of the people that we are concerned about also have concerns. So. See if it'll work. It might work for you. Say your name. Yeah, well, you can
Hold on. Hi, my name is Rod Satterwhite. I've lived in Ann Arbor for over 20 years at this point, and I would like to talk a little bit about leadership and leadership we've seen recently in Ann Arbor. On one hand, we do have ICPOC who have demonstrated a good deal of leadership in terms of coming here, opening up their meetings to us in a place where we can all meet and convene and see each other as humans, not just faces on a Zoom screen. And by allowing the public forum format, they are allowing us to speak and have a dialogue. Yes. And not only are they able to listen to what we say and then forget it, but they are forced to hear in a way that City Council is not necessarily forced to hear. And so on the other hand, we do have City Council, and particularly the mayor, and what I see when I hear about the way in which this resolution was proposed and brought forth are a set of interactions between the mayor and the city attorney's office and the police chief, in which the mayor comes to them with his brand new glitzy idea that's not at all brand new or glitzy, runs ideas by them, and does not hear in their silence or hear in their lack of enthusiasm any kind of approval of this. But he does not discern that because he is not actually hearing them. He is listening. He is used to not actually having to hear people because that's not the way he thinks about this group. And in the face of such lack of leadership, I think that it is the responsibility of people like us who are able to come out and participate, especially in light of COVID, to become leaders ourselves. And I think that's a very scary thing, especially for a lot of us younger people who do not have the experience or the history with these matters to really feel like we have any authority to say what should happen or how we should change things or what we can do or how we should act or whatever, because that is a burden, that is a weight that is way heavier than any of us can individually carry. However, what I would advise everyone here to do is to continue to show the fuck up. Because even if you don't know what to do, if you sit there and you listen to the people around you who do have things to say, who do have concerns, who do have fears, who do have families that they worry about, if you sit there for long enough, even if you do not understand what they're saying at first, you will learn to hear. And by hearing each other, by understanding what it is that needs to change about this community, about this country, you will be able to move forward not just on this subject, but in your interactions with other people and truly do better. And so I would implore all of you to continue to show the fuck up, because that's how we're going to be able to hear each other and do better for this community. Thank you.
My name's Paul Hickman. I've been here for about 20 years. And I think a couple times we've heard tonight about white folks showing up. I'm going to say we need to do a whole lot more than show up. That my recommendation is actually to look around at the people that you're showing up with that don't look like you and really get to know them, call them up, befriend them, go out to dinner with them, work with them side by side. And the reason why I say this is I started a company called Urban Ashes about 12 years ago. And at that time, for those of you who don't know who it is, we hired predominantly formerly incarcerated individuals. And if you'd asked me at that time, would I be comfortable with my kids hanging out with 3 guys that had done 24 years each for second-degree murder, I would have said no way. And now I would rather have my kids hang out with them than half my family. But the point is, work with them side by side and hang out with them, get to know who they are, learn the different culture, beyond just showing up and beyond just posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram or whatever else. I think the only way we're really going to start tearing down these stigmas and barriers is actually get to really know people and get to know who they are and what their cultures are, and that's how we actually move forward, in my opinion.
And I grew up here. And I just thought to echo what has been said about what we do 18 months from now. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is how to carry this forward into the work that I do or will do. And I'm at a kind of crossroads in terms of working in education and library stuff. And those are really interesting spaces for social justice, and I bet a lot of people here work in social justice, perhaps, or whatever you do. I think there's probably, it's kind of a creative question that we're presented with for how to take this discussion forward into the line of work that we do, how to share the platform that we have, if we have a platform, with people whose voices need to be heard more. And so it's a really big opportunity and something that I'm thinking a lot about and reflecting on, and I hope that everybody else is too, in our lives, in our work, in this community, in Ann Arbor as an identity. Thanks.
Actually, I forgot another part of the story as I sat down. Our very first employee was a guy named Calvin Evans, who was one of those guys who did 24 years. Calvin still is one of my absolute best friends now. But after about 4 or 5 years, I finally asked him why he was so committed to what we were doing and why he became a good friend of mine. And he said, at first he was skeptical about my sincerity. And he said, the day I started showing up with my kids in the shop and letting my kids be part of the whole process is when the trust factor kicked in. This is very much about trust. There's very little trust from all sides. And unfortunately, human nature is we're afraid of what we don't know. So get to know people, and that's getting to know. And that when Calvin told me that, it was sort of an innate thing when I started bringing him in because I thought the guys I was working with were pretty cool, and I wanted my kids to get to know them. But it didn't register to me that meant everything to him, and pretty much every person that I worked with and that worked there afterwards would bring that same thing up. The fact that I bring my young kids in around these guys that are probably the most, and females, but are some of the most stigmatized and looked down upon people in the world, and the fact that you leave your kids there with them makes a huge difference. So looking at other people and learning to trust them and getting to know people, I think, is a huge part of this.
Thank you.
I want to just echo that sentiment that trust is important, and transparency is important, and accountability is important. And we are not politicians. We're not. We don't have an agenda. Well, we have one agenda, right? But we don't have an agenda other than our mission, other than our vision, other than our goal to enhance the trust between the community and the police, and to enhance the transparency of police processes and the accountability of police officers. So when we have conversations with you, we're happy to have we have the same conversations no matter who's in the room. We don't change the message depending on who we're talking to, depending on to whom we're talking. My mother would kill that grammar, sorry. When I call out people in an email, I CC them. I don't talk about people behind their backs. The mayor was very unhappy with me that I put some thoughts in an email to him, and he advised me never write an email to him again.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Don't worry, that's for you.
You don't want that?
Recall.
So today, when he texted me, I didn't respond at 2:33. He copied me and Francis. But I did reply, I'm really busy. I actually have a paid job, and I can do it from 8 to 4, and then I have to get downtown because ICPOC. So I don't have time to call you today. But this would be a really good time for me. I'm sorry?
He wanted to see us in person.
He did want to see us in person. I'm sorry, that was out of the question. I'm sorry.
We're now. We could have showed up tonight. Right. You know what you're gonna be.
Recall!
But then he'd have to talk to all of us, and we all hear everything the same way, right? And you guys might ask some really hard questions, and that could be awkward. And so, city council may not always agree with each other, and they don't always agree with us. Sometimes we feel supported by some of them, sometimes we don't. There are city council people who have shown up to our meetings who have called me. So what the hell is this resolution? I've gotten those calls. I've had those conversations with Elizabeth Nelson. I didn't even know her that well, and she was like, what the hell? That's fine. My point is this. Trust is important. Don't try to politic us. Don't try to use us to manipulate council. Don't try to use us to divide council. We're not stupid. We're not politicians, but we know how they act, and we're not stupid, and we don't intend to be pawns, and we are accountable for what we say to everybody, and we're accountable to everyone. And we take responsibility for what we say, whether that's in an email or on Zoom or in anywhere. Text.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi again. I'm sorry for taking up more time.
You're good, Sean.
But I was the woman who spoke about 5 speakers back. I was actually pretty troubled by some of what you said. Cox, and I have the utmost respect for him and his work. That should not be considered in question. That being said, first, I think it's profoundly irresponsible to list COVID-19, police brutality, riots, which first of all have not occurred in Ann Arbor, and second of all, I wouldn't be mad if they did, and as though they are equivalent threats or related to one another in any way. They are different in kind as well as in quantity, and I think it's irresponsible to treat those as though they were all the same kind of thing coming at our police chief. Second of all, I also don't think it's appropriate to treat calls to defund the police as a threat to this particular police chief, because let's think about it. Why would we think of that first? I'm trying to, sorry, I'm not being very articulate right now. I feel that, my feeling is that it felt as though it were implied that it would be hurtful and demonstrate being unwanted to our police chief if we were to move forward with calls to defund the police. And I want to know, how does it make the police chief feel now that he does not have the power to remove the officers who killed Oral Rosser? How does it make him feel now that he does not have the power to remove the officers who laughed at a woman in the jail who asked for a suicide vest and later she killed herself in her jail cell? How does that make him feel now? And why is that less of a threat than our request for the police to be defunded and for resources to be reallocated? And furthermore, if it is treated as a threat to him and is something that would make him feel less wanted and that would drive him away, instead of driving away the white police officers who are perpetuating this violence under him, then what does it say about how much power we are actually giving him to do good as opposed to the power we are giving officers to do evil? I think it's a profoundly irresponsible way to phrase those questions, and I think we should be reframing it in how we think about it going forward and in how we work with Police Chief Cox.
I just want to say to this commission and to this group that's here, we fought very hard to get this commission. 5 years before Oral Rosser in 1971, we asked because a police officer shot one of our kids in West Park, that we were down there through my cities having a program. The young man didn't die. But at that time, we asked for this police oversight commission. And then when Oral was killed, several years later, we asked again and we had to fight. Now, I just want to say to you all, so you all know the history, and to say to you all, we asked that we be involved in picking this commission. And he did not allow us to be involved in picking. In fact, we submitted names. And he didn't pick any of the names we submitted. So we came up with this body, which I didn't know what they were going to do. And I didn't know if I was going to support it, because we did too much work to have somebody come up here and tear it down. But I just want you to know that you all stood up to it. And that's what he's pissed off about. That you got the nerve to stand up when he puts you up in against this community's wishes. But I want to thank all of you. You've been strong. You've been warriors right along with us. And that's what we need. Now, all of you ain't warriors, but I figure you'll come on board eventually. But you don't give up. You don't fight against them, but you don't say too much, but you're still here. I just want everybody to know this has been an awesome vote, and we have to support them. I have been lax myself because I got disappointed. I lost my son to drugs because there's a gap in the system, And if you're poor and you don't have no money and you're an addict, you don't get no help. So he had to live with his mom and die at 56, living with his mom. And I had to be called to be told my son is dead. And we don't have no system to help. And we gotta help this commission so we can do better to help other people that don't die from drugs. Drugs is a disease. It's not. It's not to be a criminal. It's a disease. So we got to come together so we can pull this liberal town and this progressive town together so we can help everybody that needs help. The mentally ill, the ones that have addiction. And I'm saying this in honor of my son, Richard Allen Jackson Jr., who tried to get help and couldn't because he wasn't married. I want you to support this commission, and I'm going to support this commission so we can do better and help everybody in this town that needs help rather than be criminalized. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's a funny thing. The mayor didn't take the mayor didn't take the recommendations of the task force, and the mayor didn't appoint any of the task force members. And so he appointed one. There was one task force member that was appointed to our commission, and she left pretty quickly, very quickly. Not because she didn't like us, really, we've been nice, I promise, we play nice. But there was a gap. There was this, we had to earn their trust. We had to show them that we would take this thing that they worked so hard on and that it was in good hands. And I mentioned that the mayor didn't vet us well enough, and he didn't. And so we're not sure what we look like to him, but we are all fighters. We are all warriors, and we have all fought for this in many different ways. And we have been through a trial by fire. So before this, in February, we had a situation. And we worked together in a way that we were discouraged at times, at different times, and different people among us lifted us up. And it was Bonnie Phillips who said, I was in a moment of despair. I had been on Channel 7 News saying we don't know anything, they won't tell us anything, but we were trying really hard to find out, and I was getting discouraged. And he said, but Lisa, we have the people. And the people will care, and the people will support us, and the people will want to find out what happened. So we take the trust of the task force very seriously. We take your trust very seriously. I know you don't know all of us. You don't know me. You maybe never saw me or heard of me before last night, but we are ready to work to earn your trust.
I just want to ask this, I know we're out of time, but before we adjourn,
yes,
if we could spend a few moments or minutes in silence to pay respect.
We intended to start this with a moment of silence. We also want to acknowledge the Supreme Court ruling of yesterday that takes away the ability of LGBT LGBTQI people. So let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. We want to honor people who can't be here, people who are not heard, not able to be heard, whether that's from police violence or other reasons that don't allow them to be with us today.
That seemed long, didn't it? But it was not 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
It seemed long, but it's not as long as 8 minutes and 46 seconds. We're at the end of our time, however. Please continue to engage with us. Please email us, a2policeoversight@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, A2IPOC. We will keep you abreast of where we are, where we'll be, what we're doing. We would like your input though. We need your input. And because I suck at parliamentary procedure, I just want to make sure, I think one of my commissioners pointed out that we might have voted to add these items to the agenda, but we might have not actually voted on them. So, Kelly, did we vote on chair and vice chair? We just voted.
You voted to add the agenda, so we didn't vote on.
Okay, thank you. You're allowed to tell us. You know, everybody knows I'm bad at this now, right?
Did we revote?
We didn't really vote it off. So, if you would like... So much better.
So the motion that needs to come before the floor is the reappointment of our chair and vice chair. And since they themselves are being reappointed, more than likely would have to come from somebody else on the commission. That's what I have shared with you in that text.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to preside for these next 30 seconds. So the motion on the floor is in regards to the reappointment of the chair and the vice chair.
I make that motion.
It has been moved. Is there a second? Having properly moved and seconded, are you ready for the question? All of those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. Amen.
All of those opposed, amen. All of those opposed, ayes have it, and so it is ordered. Okay, there was also another item that was added to the agenda. Would you like to restate that, Mr. Mahal?
The motion was to appoint Commissioner Jackson and Francis Fedora to be the spokespersons for our commission, especially when it comes to the media. This is the motion.
Is there a second? Having properly moved and seconded, are you ready for the question? All of those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, and so it is ordered. Those classes in the Robert's Rules of Order actually paid off. Amen.
We'd like to tell you when our next regularly scheduled meeting is. We will announce a work session likely within the next week, but we'd like to tell you when our next full meeting is. If we could, it's the third Tuesday in July. The date is the 21st of July.
Yes, it is.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
And thank you for coming.